everybody. So we're so excited today. We are here to talk about Disney, one of our favorite things to talk about. We have Talking Disney every month, and we are talking about the 2018 films from Disney, all the different entities, and we're going to rank them. It's going to be so fun. And I'm Rachel, and Stanford's here.
Hi, Rachel. How's it going?
Yes, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks again for the invite. I'm really excited to talk to you about this. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. And we have included, I have 12 films on my ranking. You have 11.
I have 11. Yes, it was one of them. One of them that I didn't see. So.
Yeah, it was kind of a last minute add-on by me because we're going to cover the Pixar movies, or Pixar movie. We're going to cover Walt Disney Animated Studios, Star Wars, Lucasfilm, Marvel, and Disney live action. And I'm including 2 of the Disney Channel original movies. You're just including 1.
Including the 1, yeah.
Yes. I would say it was a pretty great year for Disney last year. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I would agree. Looking at the list and just having to go ahead and rank these films, in preparation for this. They had, I thought, a really solid year artistically. Yeah.
Yeah. They had some missteps for sure. We'll talk about.
For sure. For sure.
But overall, I think they made some really fun films, and they got their first Oscar nominations for Marvel. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah, that was cool.
They were, 2 of their films, animated films nominated, so that was exciting. Then they had nominations for a nomination for Infinity War, nomination for Solo, and Christopher Robin.
And Christopher Robin, yeah.
Yeah. So that's really exciting, and Mary Poppins Returns got a bunch of nominations. So a pretty good year artistically, and then at the box office, they had some losses, some not great success, but overall it was a pretty great year, and there's a lot of exciting stuff coming up in 2019, especially with Disney Plus. So it's gonna be epic coming up.
Absolutely, Rach. Yeah.
So, all right, well, let's dive in. And one of the frustrating things I think for me about last year with Disney is I do feel like the risks they took on the more risky properties, they didn't really pay off.
Yeah, I thought so too, and that was disappointing because again, Disney, as we know, when something really doesn't do well, then they're done with it. It's not like they, more often than not, they don't nurse along or do another film of a property that really doesn't do that well. And when we're saying not doing that well, that it doesn't earn $1 billion.
Yeah, and loses money.
Yeah, that it actually loses money, or only earns $250 million or whatever,
right,
or something that I think many other people would think, oh wow, this is what a amazing thing, but for Disney that's low,
right? And for the cost of the film, and and then they had their commercial. I mean, they had their critical flops as well that didn't do all that well with critics. So it was a mixture. I just wish that the movies that that they were trying something different had been better, and I wish that I wish that it had. I just wish that they'd been better, and that's unfortunate. And I hope that they keep taking risks, but I hope they make them better.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. So let's start with that. So I'm going to say my number 12. We're going to start at the bottom, go up. My number 12 is A Wrinkle in Time, and this is partly because I love the book, and I just feel like they had everything going for them. They had an incredible cast. They had a competent director. They had all the budget that they could want. And I just can't believe they they flopped it so badly. I just felt it was so muddled. I felt it was so confusing. If I hadn't been very familiar with the book, I would have been really lost. And I just felt like they took out all of the spirituality of the book. And they keep telling Meg that she's a warrior, but in the book they don't have to tell her that. She figures this out for herself.
Yeah.
And she figures out that she has to go back and face it and save Charles Wallace, because she learns of her value and of his value and what it means to be human. And so she goes and she fights on her own with the discouragement, honestly, of her dad and everybody around her. She faces it, and I just love her growth in that book. And I just felt like you didn't get any. It was a lot of speechifying to me, which was very frustrating. I also thought a lot of the visual choices, while unique, didn't really work and were just sort of weird.
Yeah.
But mostly the main problem, it was just so convoluted, and I don't know. They say it's an unfilmable novel. It might be, but I was very disappointed in it.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand how Ava DuVernay kind of messed it up as bad as she did, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my number 12.
Okay. My number 12, I'm leaving blank because since I'm missing one. So, I'm just leaving it blank.
That's right. So then I will say my number 11 is the Nutcracker and the Four Realms. And that's what I've seen about Risks. I was very hopeful for this. We never really had a good Nutcracker movie, and I was really hopeful that it would be fun and it would be magical and something creative and new. And but this had two directors working on it, and they simultaneously, and you can tell 100% it feels like two stories mashed together. There was no conflict. It was just like, for a long section of the thing, it was just Claire just watching dancing, and I'm like, well, I guess I like the dancing, but I don't know, it was so weird to me. And then finally at the end, in the last act, they have a little bit of conflict, but it just felt like, here I go in this room for a little while, and I'm watching stuff, and then it did not work.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
it's my number 11 too, Rachel. Yeah. I thought this film that it had actually, I thought, some potential to be something unique and beautiful, and quite beautiful.
Yeah.
And because again, they had A-list talent,
right?
Solid directors, incredible music talent. Misty Copeland, was a beautiful ballet dancer, and all these things, and I think decent actors.
Oh yeah,
and
Morgan Freeman, Helen Mirren,
Keira Knightley, and it just it was such a disappointment. It was a mess, and it's too bad. It's too bad, because who knows how it internally how it fell apart. I don't think, I thought too, Disney knew it, that it wasn't very good, and even though they did some pretty decent marketing, it's just like they snuck it in. What was the release date? Like November 3rd?
Yeah.
And they just kind of snuck it in, and I just think it just died a quick death, and it was just, really, really disappointment.
Yeah, it just was. There just wasn't enough story there, and I don't know if it's just Nutcracker movies are just cursed.
I know, it kind of is, isn't it? There's just not a good one.
There's never been a good one, so I think we should stop.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just this thing, it was.
And it wasn't really even the Nutcracker story. Like, I hardly even knew that that character was the Nutcracker for a long
Yeah.
time.
It was so unclear. I mean, I just figured to myself midway through, like, well, I guess he's the Nutcracker
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they don't. He doesn't transform. He doesn't. Anyway, weird,
right, yeah.
weird.
So yeah, it was frustrating. So we basically both have that same spot. It's a bummer,
Yeah.
but all right. So my number 10 is Freaky Friday. And this movie, I don't know, it was a little bit frustrating because I think it had a lot of good ingredients. I think it probably works quite well as a play, which it was based on, and they got, I think, most of the Broadway cast to be in the movie, and the singing was quite good.
Yeah.
But I thought there were a lot of weird moments. There's this whole song about parents and like forgiving your parents that had, I think, a lot of interesting ideas, but it was strange, especially for the fact that it was the mom in the daughter's body. I just feel like they did a very poor job of depicting mom and daughter and mom. It never felt like they got that right. And it was just an odd movie. I can't say worse than that. I thought these songs didn't really fit a movie. It just didn't quite. Your Name's like one of my favorite movies. I love Freaky Friday. There are other two Freaky Fridays. I love people body swapping stuff. I just love that. But I don't know. There was just something weird about, and they're like her mom's getting married. So there was some like weird stuff between the mom and her new stepdad, and her being in the mom's body. And I don't know. It was just a strange movie in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm so with you on that. So I had Freaky Friday at 9 and Wrinkle in Time at 10. Okay. And they're really close to each other, Yeah. I second all the stuff you say about A Wrinkle in Time. I know we had talked about this when the film came out last year. I think I might have liked the film a little bit more, but part of it is because I was quite detached from it. Had been years since I've read the book. And so I knew that there was big deviations going on, and different things happening in the movie that weren't in the book or that were interpreted in kind of a weird way. But that movie was such a disappointment. And this Freaky Friday, I'm with you. So it's my number 9.
Yeah.
So disappointing. I think that the two other Disney Freaky Friday movies are both really fun.
I agree.
The one with Barbara Harris and Jodie Foster, from the 70s, is a blast. And and then the one with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan is terrific. It's
agreed.
And this one, I'm with you. The music, the songs were really weird. I'm sorry for lack of a better term. It's just like, where did that come from? And I'm with you. I know exactly which song you're talking about. The one about the kind of forgiving your parents or whatever. It brings up a lot of interesting themes, but it seems so out of place and out of kind of out of context.
Parents Lie is the name of the
Parents
song.
Lie. That's the one.
And she's singing this song to the little boy. It's just so weird.
It's so weird. And then
song.
The mom's relationship. I'm with you. Like, her business, and then all of that stuff. Just, I don't know. None of it worked. So Heidi Blickenstaff is the name of the actress who plays the mom in this, and she's a Broadway actress, and she's so good.
Yeah.
And I was actually really disappointed, and it wasn't so much her fault. I just thought she had a bad script, and then this kind of these out of place songs, because she's so good. I was that was the main reason I tuned in, is I wanted to see Heidi Blickenstaff.
And her singing was very good.
Oh, she's terrific. Yeah. Even with this bad material, I think she still was able to.
Yeah. Like, I'm very curious because Hale Theater here in Utah is doing this musical later on in the year. So I'm kind of curious to actually go see it,
Oh,
because
yeah.
it does feel like, oh, this is something that works on a stage.
Yeah, it might work better on stage. I
Yeah.
I hope.
But it was just so odd to have this Disney Channel movie with this mother and this little boy and her singing about parents lying. I don't know. It was strange. So yeah, it didn't work. So we've got our experimental films out of the. We can all
Yeah,
agree these were the three worst, which is such a shame because they don't experiment very often.
I
But
know, it's a bummer.
uh, so yeah, it's too bad. So all right. So my number 9 is Christopher Robin, and there were things I liked about this movie. I thought it looked pretty. I thought that I loved the characters. I thought they were really cute. They looked like plush animals, and I think that it had its heart in the right place, and I enjoyed seeing it with my niece. But I didn't really like it, even though there's those good things, because it kind of bothered me that I felt like they made some odd choices. First of all, what did they honestly expect Christopher to do when, if he doesn't come into work, everybody in his department is going to be fired? And yet he's presented as this bad man of business, which I'm very familiar with bad man of business as a Hallmark fan. Um, he he's a bad guy because he's literally saving all these people's jobs. Like, what? That was weird to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the fact that they switched things around. So in the original Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, at the end of the movie, they Christopher asks Winnie the Pooh that, he says, "Pooh, will you always remember me?" And he says, "I will, Christopher." And they have this beautiful, it makes me cry every time. I absolutely love it. And that makes sense. But in this one, they switch it around and it's Pooh asking Christopher. And these are like sentient beings that other people see and that other people interact with, not just Christopher. And so then he goes out and he forgets about them. And so they're just sitting there in this limbo waiting for Christopher
Yeah.
to come back and remember his promise. And I was just like, well, that's depressing.
Oh,
And
I know, right?
so I think the biggest mistake that they made in this movie is that they picked the wrong protagonist. His daughter Madeline absolutely should have been the protagonist. She
Yeah.
could have gotten in an argument with her father, and then she doesn't want to go to the boarding school. She goes into the 100-Acre Woods, finds Winnie the Pooh, and there you go. That would have been so much better, and it would have made way more sense. And they have this kind of wacky finale where Christopher decides to to present this business plan where they're all going to take vacations. It's a great business move, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Wow, that's creative." That was funny to me. But I did just about die when we have Richard Sherman at the end playing a new song. That was amazing. So it had
Yeah.
its ups and downs for me. Overall, it was a disappointment, but anyway, there you go. I have it at 9.
Yeah.
So
So my 9 is Freaky Friday. I have Christopher Robin at number 8.
okay,
Too.
yeah, we're pretty close then.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
think.
I think Christopher Robin was ambitious, but a real disappointment.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I enjoyed watching it, and I think partly I just wasn't quite sure the tone it was going to have.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I did, though. I did think, and I was glad it did get an Oscar nomination for it, because I thought the way that they brought the plush animals into the real world was cool. I thought it looked great, but I'm with you. I just had problems with the script,
Yeah.
and Ewan McGregor was a great choice for adult Christopher Robin, but again, the stuff that they had him do, and I'm with you. It probably should have been his daughter, and and what have these animals been? What have these little plush animals been doing? Just sitting all these years, just sitting in this weird
Waiting
limbo.
for him. I was like, well, what?
Yeah.
It was really odd. And I just thought, I mean, there have been so many movies with, from everything from Santa Claus to Mary Poppins to and everything in between of of the father obsessed with business. And
Right.
you know it's such a classic scene of like they're in the boardroom, he's giving the big presentation, he's like, sorry guys, I gotta go to my kid's soccer match.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
whatever. And
Exactly.
that 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 scene is just always rings so false to me, because uh I can't think of a parent even a child in the world that would be like, no dad, you you give up this huge business opportunity to go to my soccer game, when they have, I mean, I'm sure that's hard sometimes for kids, but like, you have to make a living for your family, and
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to work.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we even seen it recently in Nine Lives, which was hilarious because in Nine Lives, he literally hadn't done anything wrong. Like, if it wasn't Kevin Spacey, who's like done a lot of villains and now is really, but
Yeah.
like, he was literally early in the movie buying presents for his daughter, and getting his assistant to go out and get the perfect. That's why he buys the cat, because he wants to get a present. Like, he's not even a bad dad. He gets turned into a cat. But but yeah, there are a lot of, that's a very popular trope. And I don't know, it was just so weird to me because I just didn't see any reason that Christopher was the bad guy in the situation. I mean, he could have listened better to his daughter about schooling, but I don't know. It was just a strange choice, but yeah, it did have its positives, like I said, and that Richard Sherman song was so fun.
Wasn't that?
That was really great.
That was delightful.
Mhm.
I thought that what, and again, almost kind of like what was going on with Disney, the Nutcracker and the Four Realms. Like, I mean, this film was better than than the Nutcracker, but
Yeah,
these moments, these little glimmers of brilliance that, wow, this really could have been something great.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and then it didn't work.
Yeah, that I agree 100%. All right, now we're getting into the movies that I think I gave all of the rest of the movies fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So,
All right,
yeah, here we go.
here we go.
Uh, so for number 8, I have Solo: Star Wars Story. Now, this movie, I think, was a fun time. I thought it had some of the space western uh, feeling that I didn't get in Last Jedi. It was more of an adventure. I think that I never really felt like Alden Ehrenreich was Han Solo.
Yeah.
I never really felt like any, maybe except for Chewbacca, I guess, that they were the characters they were playing. But if I just kind of separated as a space western as its own thing, like if I think of this as like Valerian or something like that, I thought it was pretty engaging. I liked Donald Glover as Lando. Amelia Clark was fine. She's not my favorite actress in the world, but she was fine. And I think things like the Kessel Run were a lot of fun. I enjoyed the action set pieces. I liked Han and the Woody Harrelson character pretty well. I thought that him and Chewie were fun to see together. It was sort of weird how they basically imply that Chewie eats people. That was sort of weird.
Yeah.
But but I enjoyed all of that. I liked the look of it. I thought it had a nice aesthetic. All those are positives for me. Negatives for me was I felt like it went on one act too long. I think it should have just ended when he finishes the Kessel Run, because that was like a triumphant moment. Then all the stuff kind of after that felt not as good to me. And I don't know, it just would have been, I think, a good place to end it. I also hated the droid L3. I thought she was terrible, and just she was like a troll but in robot form, and she was just not for me. And I thought that the idea that Lando was in love with her is just the most absurd idea to ever hit Star Wars. I mean, someone as cool and slick as Lando is in love with this obnoxious droid that, like, what? That was just too much for me. And so that part I didn't like. And the Darth Maul reveal really didn't do a whole lot for me because I'm a fan of Rebels, and he's been on that show many times. So, but overall, I still had a good time. It hasn't stayed with me. It's not a movie that I really long to watch again, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah, I have Solo at 7.
Oh my gosh, our lists are so similar.
Yeah, they're really similar.
That's funny.
I adore Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I have to, I think, kind of apologize for myself. I really kind of mad at the bad press Solo was getting.
Yeah.
When it came out, and some of it, it probably deserved, and maybe some of it, it just is what it is, And
Right.
I needed to have been, I think, have been a little more objective. I was particularly frustrated with, and I get frustrated with this. I've been frustrated with this for years, but I just know that it's the reality of the situation that a film success is basically determined on its opening weekend.
Right.
And when Solo's numbers were so low on its opening weekend, I know I was frustrated by it. I just think, don't count this film out, but I think, yeah.
Well, I mean, it would have done fine if it hadn't been so expensive to make.
Right.
And yeah, the hoopla didn't help it for sure. But I mean, it's impressive that it was as good as it was, in my opinion.
I think that's a good point too, Rachel, because given the challenges it had in production, that the directors got fired midway, and they had to bring in Ron Howard to kind of
not even midway. Like,
that's true. It was like
finished.
Principal photography had almost finished, huh?
I mean, that must have been bad. I would be very curious. I mean, the only thing we have to compare it to is this whole mess with Justice League. I think are pretty similar circumstances.
Yes.
That new directors brought in, basically when the whole movie is reshot. They basically made 2 movies in both cases.
Yeah. And I wondered what, how the Lord and Miller version of Solo would have been if it really would have been fun or a disaster. I mean, who knows? And I guess Lucasfilm thought it was going to be a disaster.
Especially after Into the Spider-Verse, you can't help but wonder what they would have done with Star Wars.
What they would have done, if it would have been cool, or if, again, it just maybe just didn't work. I'm with you on the casting. I never really bought in. I mean, Alden's a good actor, I think, but he was never Harrison Ford, or Han Solo to me. And even though I kind of just let it go and just enjoyed the ride because there was so much of it.
Me too.
Fun. I'm with you. I thought it was too long, and also, and I thought it was interesting. Disney CEO Bob Iger kind of took ownership of some of this, but some of the other people talk about that there was maybe some Star Wars fatigue. There was all this problems with The Last Jedi, and then this came out in the summer. But the last 3 Star Wars movies have come out in December.
Right.
And I almost think that they kind of shot themselves in the foot rather than, I think Disney should have let it come out in December.
Yeah, it's a tough thing.
It's tough.
Because the reason why they didn't want to do that is because they had Mary Poppins Returns in December. And when else did they the only opening month I think where Disney didn't have a release, I think was in October.
Yeah, I think it was October.
And that's sort of a weird spot for it also.
Exactly.
I don't know. It's tough.
It's tough.
But yeah, I agree. I think that they're just, I don't know. It was just kind of a lose-lose situation. There was just so much stink on the film, both because of Last Jedi and because of, there's a side of me that wonders if they, I don't know, if I mean, you can't scrap it but there's a side of me that just wonder, it's too bad the Disney Plus wasn't already
I
around.
know. As you say,
Because
it's a perfect thing just to put on their streaming service and let people enjoy it that way rather than having it be a high profile miss.
Like kind of do what they did with that Mowgli movie.
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes a thing at all.
Me too.
Why not? So I don't know. I still enjoyed it, but like I said, it's not one that has stayed with me. It's not one that I've wanted to rewatch. And where even The Last Jedi, as much as I really dislike a lot of the choices they made, I still kind of want to rewatch it just to make sure of how I feel. I don't know. It's a little bit more sort of I don't know. It's just a little bit more interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have L3 in it. So,
yeah, that was weird.
And then the idea that I'm supposed to buy that she is the Millennium Falcon for the rest of Star Wars, I'm like,
I know.
It's like Florence all over again. Like, what are you doing? So that was very irritating. But anyway, it is what it is. What are you gonna do?
Right.
So that's the risk we have with these Star Wars movies every year. You know, it used to be 3 years. Is that some of them you're gonna like? Some of them you're going to think are okay.
Yeah.
Some of them you're going to hate.
And I think it's been really interesting. And actually, I kind of, maybe we can attribute this to J.J. Abrams or, I don't know, or maybe it's Bob Iger or all the above. But there has been so much silence about Episode 9. And I think that's been a smart move on Disney's part. Because rather than having the hype machine going full force and, they've done trailers and we know the title and all that stuff, they're just keeping silent. And I think that we're going to know more with the Star Wars Celebration fan event that's happening in April, but still, and I just think part of that is just because of a combination of backlash from The Last Jedi, and then Solo was basically considered a flop,
right?
And so I think good for them that they're just kind of holding their card. I mean, they've talked about The Mandalorian and some of that other stuff that's coming on the Disney Plus service, but otherwise, they're just, I think, with stuff, they're being really quiet.
If I were Disney, and they obviously know what they're doing more than me, but if it were me, I would scrap the Rian Johnson trilogy. That's for sure. I just feel like if it was one movie, I'd say, go ahead, make one, have him make a movie, but having him make a trilogy seems extremely risky to me with how expensive. It'd be one thing if it was like sort of when they were with like Deadpool that was like $60 million or whatever to make. But these Star Wars movies are, pushing $200 million.
Expensive. Yeah.
And if you're going to be, proposing a trilogy, I think that's extremely risky. And it's not like Star Wars has a lot of clout overseas. It's not like Star Wars is not popular in China. It does not do. You cannot have a Star Wars movie be saved in China. If it doesn't do well domestically, then it's not going to do well. Period. End of story. And so I don't know. That I think it's extremely risky. I absolutely would not do that. And I guess this other series that they're going to have, the Game of Thrones
guys. Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like proposing more trilogies is dangerous. I think you have to put the movie out there and see if people want more,
right?
And then go from there.
Yeah.
Just the assumption that whatever thing with Star Wars is going to be successful. I don't know. I get wanting to, when you have somebody like Kevin Feige who's this planner over at Marvel and trying to want to kind of imitate that, but it's just not. Doesn't seem to be working with Solo, and I think that's partly because they're just not as confident. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy has just not been very confident with her choices. I mean, she's gotten rid of Colin Trevorrow. They were going to have what's his name from Fantastic Four. He was going to do it. I can't.
Yeah, Josh Trank.
Yeah, all the mess with Gareth Edwards in Rogue One. That wasn't that. I mean, it was amazing. That movie was watchable, to be honest.
I know, and then it was so popular. You know,
yeah. I mean, I didn't care for it, but still, I mean, it's just been a mess, and so I don't know, but I certainly would not do the Rian Johnson trilogy.
You know, you bring up a really good point with that, because I respect Rian Johnson as a filmmaker. I also really admire how he handled himself online with all the haters.
That's true.
However, I'm just not sure that even if he made the best film ever that everybody loved, that he still could get the trust back of that portion of the fan community. I just don't know if he ever could.
I agree, and I just think it's just very risky. But
yeah,
whatever, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. So my number 7 is Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think that this is a perfectly serviceable, entertaining superhero movie. I really enjoyed the first Ant-Man. I love Paul Rudd. I've loved him ever since Clueless. The man does not age. He looks exactly the same.
I know. It's amazing.
And
whatever he's drinking, I want to have some of that. You know?
Me too. He's so charming, and he's just great. And I really like Scott as a character. And so I know a lot of people were mixed on Ant-Man. I've really enjoyed it more than most, it seems like. And then this comes out, and I was actually kind of nervous for it, because I felt like Evangeline Lilly was the weakness in Ant-Man. I felt she was very wooden. I didn't feel like they had any chemistry together.
Yeah.
She wasn't my favorite. And then in this, my surprise, she did great. I thought she was really charismatic. I think it's the most charismatic I've ever seen her, including in Lost. And I thought that they actually did have some chemistry. They didn't give them enough just two on two time or whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't think, but I still enjoyed it. They didn't have as much Michelle Pfeiffer as I was hoping for, because I love Michelle Pfeiffer. But there was enough sort of heart, and I liked all the action set pieces were really entertaining. And I thought it kept sort of the humor, and I thought the Ghost as a villain was actually pretty decent.
Yeah, I agree. You know, this is my number 6.
Oh,
I agree with everything that you said. I was really impressed that Evangeline Lilly pulled out a really cool performance for it. Again, and then they kept the same tone. I was glad that Peyton Reed was back, because I thought he did.
Yeah,
I think he's a very competent director, and that was tough, because everybody was so excited for this Edgar Wright take on Ant-Man that we'll never get now.
Right.
But still, I think the movie's been fun, and I'm with you. I thought Michelle Pfeiffer was a cool addition. They didn't give her a lot to do, but I was glad that at least she was in for part of it. And Michael Douglas, I think, is cool in this role.
Yeah.
The supporting cast was fantastic. The villain, or the ghost part was good. So yeah, thumbs up. I thought really just a solid movie, just a solid, entertaining film. Yeah.
Yeah, and still him and I guess Hawkeye are the only ones that have children, so that kind of adds something to their character. That little girl they have as his daughter is adorable.
Oh, she's so cute.
Yeah.
She was so perfectly cast.
It is a movie that did kind of use most of the best parts in the trailer, which is a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's perfectly, I can't imagine anyone hating this movie. It's perfectly harmless. It's not one that that has really stayed with me or that I loved. But that's fine. It's not one that I've bought on Blu-ray, which I do get most. I will eventually, but I was just kind of waiting for it to be on a good price.
Yeah, like on sale or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, there you go.
But Michael Pena, too, I have to throw his name in.
Oh, yeah.
His character is so funny
I
And
could have used more of that of
yes,
those three guys.
exactly. They're
They're so funny.
hilarious,
Yeah.
and I'm with you. I almost wish I was happy that they made it to the sequel. I wish there was more Michelle Pfeiffer and more of those three guys too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Michael
I,
Pena's character.
I agree. So there you go. All right. My number 6, and people might think I'm crazy. I don't care. I have the Disney Channel original movie, Zombies. I thought this was really clever and it had a really good message. And I thought the music was good. It had some really inventive choreography. Basically, the whole idea of this movie is that you have this world where you're in this town called Zombie Town, and you have this world where basically the zombie-ness can be controlled through these like things like a watch or something. I can't remember, but they like keeps them in balance. And so for a long time they've been segregated. So zombies had to go to their school and humans went to their school, and now they are desegregating. They're combining your schools. And so you have, obvious kind of messages of people that are different. And the lead, you have the zombie, and then you have the girl is the head cheerleader, sort of start to become friends. And I just thought it was really sweet, and I thought that the singing was pretty good, and I liked the songs, and I liked, like I said, the choreography, and I like Meg Donnelly. She's on American Housewife, which is a show that I think is so great, very funny. It has Katie Mixon, who's just the best, and it's a really, I think, kind of underrated show. The fact that it's never up for any Emmys or anything, I think is ridiculous. And anyway, I think she does a really good job. And American Housewives did such a great job casting the three kids, little girl, middle school or whatever, and then high schooler. And she plays Meg Donnelly plays the high schooler in that show. And so anyway, I really enjoyed it, and I think it'd be a great one to watch for like family home evening, family movie night kind of thing, and talk about bullying and how we treat people and stuff like that. And so I think it was pretty good. Disney Channel original movie, in my opinion.
I'm glad you bring that up. That's the one movie that I haven't seen of our list, and I'll have to hunt it down. I'm glad this one that you enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are way too hard on these Disney Channel movies, and it's just a weird thing. I feel like I sort of put the ones from their childhood up on a pedestal, and then these new ones come out and they're like, oh, this is the worst thing to ever exist, and I'm like, really? I don't know, it's weird to me, but anyway.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And again, these movies are made for a fraction of the cost, as you know, these feature films and all these different things. That I don't think the comparisons are fair.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. Just enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
Just enjoy it for what it is.
Yes. So what do you have at number 6?
My number 6 is Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right. This might shock people. This caused some ripples or whatever, some angry comments. I have a number 5, Avengers Infinity War. And this movie did a lot of things right. I really did enjoy it. I think that it did a really great job of giving every single character a moment to shine. And that's no small task. They had so many characters, like 35
I know.
characters.
There's so much going on.
Yeah. And so I give them huge props for that. It obviously looked really good. I think Thanos was a good character, a good villain. I appreciate the fact that his like stooges or whatever you want to call them, his goons, were really hard to defeat. It wasn't just like the kind of the robots in Ultron or something like that are pretty no big competition for your Avengers. Like these guys were really, I mean, it took 4 or 5 Avengers just to defeat them, not even Thanos.
Yeah.
That I thought was really good and added a lot of tension to these scenes. I still thought there were enough kind of lighter moments. it was a little too long, but I don't know what you're going to cut. I don't know. It was just still dragged a little bit in some spots. The only thing I didn't like, and I say I didn't like it, but it's not really a firm dislike, but I didn't like the ending. I thought it was just very manipulative, but it's not the real ending. And so once I see the whole movie with Endgame, I probably will be fine with it, but I just hate when I feel like directors think I'm stupid. Do they honestly, for a second, expect me to believe and feel emotion and be crying for these characters? I mean, who on earth could possibly believe that Black Panther is dead? I mean, that's just so ridiculous. I feel like if they had the older characters die and be snapped up, that would have been way more emotional and I would have believed it way more because it's actually believable. Because I know that, I mean, it's just, you know, under no reality is Black Panther dead. Like, that's ridiculous. This movie just made 1.5, almost $2 billion. Like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know. So I just felt like it was very manipulative and trying to give you this cliffhanger. And I was just like, ugh. And I thought the way they executed it was very confusing. It took me like a second to kind of realize what is going on. Why are they evaporating? I've never seen anybody die like that, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was sort of hard to feel emotional if I'm like confused about what is happening. And then people all around me are crying and I'm like, what is going on? And so kind of, I don't know. I didn't have the emotional impact for me that they wanted it to have. And I hate those kind of endings. It's sort of like the end of Batman v Superman, where I'm supposed to feel sad that Superman is dead.
Oh my gosh. And then the 20-minute funeral or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it was worse. It was certainly worse movie, of course. But it was the same kind of a concept that you're supposed to feel emotional. Yeah. You're supposed to be crying at this funeral and stuff. And it's like, I'm not stupid. Of course they're going to have Superman in Justice League. What is, you know? So it just, it rubs me the wrong way. And so I kind of left with a bad taste in my mouth, even though I had enjoyed the movie a lot. I love Thor's new hammer. I love those scenes. And I, was very sad about Loki. But I was just kind of left thinking, I think that all of these are just going to be undone. Every emotional moment, everything, it's all going to be undone. And I know that nobody dies in comic books, but still, I was just like, come on. And so but I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I just didn't like the ending.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, I also have Avengers Infinity War as number 5. I know. So I think clearly we'll have some different choices as, in our top 4. But I really appreciate what you're saying about this film. I just enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Soup to nuts. Absolutely enjoyed it. I couldn't believe that what a good job they did of giving every character a moment to shine. And that part didn't feel forced at all.
Yes, I
hear what you're saying about the ending. I guess in my mind, I always knew that there was going to be a second part and that they were going to do some kind of a cliffhanger. And so I was just anticipating the cliffhanger. I didn't realize that it was going to be this, that the Thanos snap was going to take out half the team. But so yeah, and again, I hope I don't come across as too cold-hearted. It didn't make me. I think the only one that got me kind of emotional was Peter Parker. Was Peter Parker's one, just because they just did such a good job filming that. That made me feel sad. But it was mostly just like. Then I just got my brain thinking, well, how in the world are they going to defeat Thanos? And what are they going to do to right this wrong? And so that was how I interpreted it. So it didn't bug me at all, because again, I was totally anticipating some kind of thing where we were going to be left hanging. My main piece of gratitude about it is that we only have to wait a year,
right?
rather than the
2 years, 3 years,
Yeah, I
whatever.
mean, I remember being a little kid, and when I went to see The Empire Strikes Back, and that
Right.
it's revealed that Darth Vader's Luke's father, and I remember talking about it with my friends. It's like, how could that even be true? And then here we have
Right.
to wait 3 years, to find out really what in the world that whole thing was about. But so I'm glad that at least we only had half to wait a year. But
Yeah, that's very
still,
true. And I did like the little team ups throughout the movie. I really was
yeah.
really, like want to see. I wish we could see these movies because I loved Doctor Strange and Iron Man together. They were great. I
Oh, that was
loved
great.
Star-Lord and Thor together. They were great.
Yeah.
I there were just so many little sort of pairings. Of course, I like seeing Vision and Scarlet Witch together. They're great. And uh the Gamora stuff was a little frustrating. It wasn't my favorite. But overall, it certainly has enough to compensate for not my favorite ending. And like I said, I can't really be that hard on the ending because I know it's not the real ending.
Yeah.
If they skunk somehow, if Endgame is not good, then that will seriously impact my enjoyment
Right.
of this one.
Right. Like if they don't have a satisfactory second half to the story,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, this one will go way down in my ranking of Marvel movies, but I'm confident in the Russos that they can pull it off because
They're awfully
they're
good.
great.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right. Well, number 4 for me. It'd be interesting to see if this is the same for you. Number 4 for me is Black Panther. I really enjoyed this movie. I think that all the world building of Wakanda was amazing. I loved that. I thought the casting was all great. All the costuming was great. All the technical stuff was totally deserved, I think, for an Oscar. They were amazing. I love the score. Also. And I think that the core idea, I think this gets elevated above the typical Marvel movie because I think the core idea of the conflict is really good because you have this conflict between Killmonger and T'Challa where T'Challa wants to he wants to protect Wakanda. So did his father. And so that's why they hide Wakanda because of what are the vibranium or whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
Anyway, and all this stuff. And so they want to hide it, keep it safe. Whereas from the perspective of Killmonger, that's shameful because he's had to live outside of it and he's seen the injustices, the persecutions, the other stuff. So he wants to go and be like an advocate for persecuted countries, persecuted things, and he wants to be on the offensive. Basically, he wants to go and attack these bad people that he sees, these dictators, these whatever, and which is like it's a valid perspective. And I kind of wish that he hadn't died at the end because I felt like I would be curious to see how the character could kind of grow and in Black Panther 2, which I'm sure we'll be getting. I could have seen more of that. Maybe they'll somehow make a way for him to have not actually died. I don't know. But anyway, I just thought that made it better. I think that the section where T'Challa is presumed dead is the weakest part of the movie. It gets a little slow for me.
Mm-hmm.
They're on that mission to that other country or whatever to get help. And that part to me was the weak part of the movie. And there is the wonky CGI battle fight at the end, but I didn't really care about that. But it could have been better, I guess. But other than that, I really, really enjoyed it. Thought it was great.
Yeah. My number 4 is Mary Poppins Returns.
Oh, great. First real difference.
I know. First one we
Love it.
got some difference here, and this one was a little hard for me because I love the movie.
Yeah.
I love the movie. I think you put it number 4 because mostly I felt like I was dreading the movie, so I was so happy that it was good, but I just super frustrated. I was so frustrated with Disney in that all they're choosing to do are sequels and remakes, and or sadly the ones that we as we've talked about already, the ones where they're taking a chance, like with the Wrinkle in Time or with the Nutcracker in the Four Realms, the movies are lousy.
Right.
And it's that's such a bummer. So I was thrilled that Mary Poppins Returns was high quality and beautiful. Honestly, I really loved everything about it, other than the idea that they were making, that they were making it. And then, these other, my top three, they're films that I just liked better.
Right.
But still, I thought that their marketing campaign was beautiful. That I loved Emily Blunt. I loved Mark Shaman's music, and loved Lin-Manuel Miranda. I just thought everything about it was absolutely solid. So I don't wish to
that's high on
diss the movie at all, because I loved it, and honestly, I think I just mostly just felt it was just a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
That it was good, that they actually delivered a really wonderful film when it just seems so questionable to me. Just like, what are they thinking? They're going to make a sequel to Mary Poppins. One of the greatest films ever made, and particularly one of the greatest Disney films ever made.
Right.
But anyway.
Yeah, I totally hear you with that for sure. So very good. All right. So my number 3 is Incredibles 2. I really loved this movie. I thought it was very good. I really liked how they had that they had really strong superhero action that was very enjoyable. Scenes like the fight with Void on the boat with the black holes coming, that was really fun. I liked Girl on her motorcycle. That was a really great scene. I liked all of the supporting characters. All were really enjoyable. You get to see more of Frozone. Edna's scene was incredible, hilarious. But then I also really enjoyed Mr. Incredible and his kind of, I said that I thought the movie was part entertaining superhero and part treatise on how hard it is to be a parent.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah, and it's not that he's like a dumb dad, because that's such a cliche, because he's not. He's actually smart. Like, he figures out new math. He figures out how to help Violet. He's tired. He's just exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it captured really well that I love that scene when he just crashed on the and Violet comes up to him, and I don't know, just that whole scene was really sweet between the two of them.
Yes.
And I think that, you got Jack and the raccoon was adorable. It just was really a fun movie. And so I really, really enjoyed it. So there you go.
So yeah, my number 3, Rachel, is Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Ah, good.
And
we saw it together.
Yeah, exactly, which was so fun. And again, these top 4 were hard for me to prioritize. It just came down to some little things, but not that there's anything necessarily again wrong with any of them. But I loved Ralph Breaks the Internet. I thought it was funny and fresh and topical and enormously clever.
Yeah,
was so impressed with the animation. So impressed how they brought the internet, quote unquote, to life. Made it a place, and what I mean, not an easy feat.
Yeah.
To make stuff, how they visually were able to capture things so well, and just the artistry that happens at Walt Disney Animation Studios is always amazing to me. Just how wonderful it is. I think I probably put it at number 3 because again, just out of I like my first 2 choices. I just like the films better.
Right.
But again, it was hard because these movies were so good. These movies were all so good.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I put as far as negatives, I guess, on Incredibles 2 is that I guess, the villain wasn't the best. It wasn't the most creative thing. It was serviceable, I think.
Right.
It was fine. But I guess that's why it was 3 for me. But yeah, these are nitpicks as far as, that's the thing with rankings is that's how it
Right.
works. Because I have Ralph Breaks the Internet at number 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with you. It's a really strong movie. I thought that a lot of the things that I was sure wasn't going to work actually ended up working. I like the whole message of the movie about letting your friends be who they are and loving them for who they are.
Yeah.
And it was really nuanced. I thought more subtle than the original movies.
I thought so too, and surprising.
Yes. And so the growth that Ralph has throughout the movie I thought was really great, and he becomes a better person and a better friend by the end of the movie. He's a really dynamic character, which I don't know if you could really say about the first movie.
Right.
As far as he's pretty much the same. He learns to be a little bit softer, I guess, but I don't know. I just think you saw a real dramatic character growth, a dynamic character. And I thought that all of the humor, it wasn't just sort of wasted parody. I thought that it all had something to say for the script. And I thought that, like, things like Spammy or whatever, it wasn't just like, oh, here's an internet joke, here's an internet joke, here's an internet joke. It was actually like, here's how you are getting the piece of the steering wheel. Here's how you're going to where you're going.
Yes.
It's actually part of the plot.
It moved the plot forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost every internet gag moved the plot forward.
Yeah. And then the slaughter race scenes, I thought the racing was incredible. The animation, amazing,
phenomenal.
Yeah. And I thought that, surprise Alan Menken song, that was fun.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was coming. That was a really pleasant surprise. I thought the princess scene really worked. I didn't think it was going to, and then surprise it did, because it was part of the story and it was part of Vanellope's growth as a character.
Yeah.
And you've got Ariel being the shining star of the scene, which made me very excited and very happy.
Yes.
And all those voice actresses back, that made me happy. And overall, I just really thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. And so, yeah, I completely agree with you about Ralph Breaks the Internet. It was very, if it's possible, to me, I feel like it's a little underrated, underappreciated for the
I think it's underappreciated too.
Yeah.
I think it under the circumstances and everything, it probably did just fine. But I wish that either more people had seen it or given it a chance. And hopefully, a lot of people will be snapping it up here on
Blu-ray,
on Blu-ray or on digital HD, and they'll enjoy it because it's really it's a solid film for sure. So yeah, my number 2 is The Incredibles 2.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's so good. I mean, just taking everything that you said, and it was so hard to pick between these two because
I know
they're very different films. I love them both. Interesting that they're sequels, but they have a very different approach to them. I think that what happens with the characters, well, I like what happens with the characters in both films. Yeah. I really liked how things went down with the family relationship Incredibles 2.
Yeah, me too.
Because to me, even though it's in this very hyper realistic world, I mean, you can't even call it realistic. It's just this. Yeah. But these this couple they're committed to each other, even though it's not necessarily easy. I love how the dynamic kind of works when Elastigirl's out having the adventure and Bob's at home, and it's not so much that they're like playing out this Mr. Mom thing. It's just I think he just wants to be out there with having the action, right? And but he figures, as you said, they don't play him as dumb. He figures it out, and Elastigirl figures out stuff too, and so does Violet, and I just loved that these characters show some development. I'm with you on the villains. I mean, I think we all can see from a million miles away what was going on with these villains. Not necessarily a surprise, and I think probably things are a little more poignant in the original Incredibles film.
Yeah, I
But
mean, I guess I went into it being like, they're not going to top Syndrome. That's not going to happen.
yeah, because
Not
they
going to
can't. They
happen.
can't. Yeah.
It's one of the best written villains in the history of movies, in
Right.
my opinion.
Absolutely. So, so I think I just mostly liked how things worked out, as that they, again, it gave them another opportunity as a family to problem solve together. And I just like seeing good examples of families on the big screen
Yeah.
that they've got their challenges, but it's not dysfunctional. You know, they work together, and they figure things out. And I just really, I think that's a unique portrayal for today, because it seems so rare that you see a family portrayed in that kind of light. Someone's either deeply flawed, or there's all sorts of trauma or sadness or
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, that was so great about the first Incredibles, is that you actually have parents like quarreling and like showing, I don't know, showing kids that that how a real marriage can
Yeah,
work. 'Cause some
can
people are like,
work.
oh, it was mean spirited or whatever. I'm like, I don't think so. I think it was,
No.
I don't think so at all. And then they just continued that on to here, that that it's a little there's like a plot hole of like, why don't they know that Jack has powers when there was that whole thing? I guess they weren't
Yeah,
watching, but
right. They
whatever.
weren't watching, but
Uh,
yeah.
but I didn't really care. It worked for me, and I hope they make an Incredibles 3. I think I'd be up for it.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
and so fun that they were able to get the original voice cast back.
Yeah.
You
That was
know,
really good.
and just such a solid film. But again, what another just stellar
And
year
funny.
for both Disney and Pixar
Yeah. I agree. It
animation.
was a really, really solid year for them.
Yeah,
And
it
so,
was hard to pick. I was glad both
yeah.
films got nominated
Yeah.
for best animated feature with the Academy Awards.
Yeah.
I wanted Into the Spider-Verse to win, and I'm glad it did.
Yeah.
But still, these films are remarkable,
Yeah.
and I'm just hopeful and really bullish on the films that are going to be coming out of Disney animation and Pixar in the future.
Me too. Especially with new leadership. I'm really looking
Yeah.
forward to it. So, all right. So my number one big moment
Yes.
is
Drum roll, please.
is Mary Poppins Returns.
Yes.
This movie was just a special experience for me. I went into it just not expecting much. I had liked the trailers, but I just have learned to be cautious about these live action remakes. I hadn't really liked Christopher Robin earlier in the year, and I liked those trailers, so I was just nervous, and I just was totally dazzled by it. I thought it was completely delightful from beginning to end. I loved all of the music. I loved all of the dancing. I thought it was just such a lovingly made, lovingly crafted movie.
Yes.
I know people are like, oh, it's exactly the same as Mary Poppins. I didn't feel that way.
No,
I thought it had enough of its own identity while still feeling part of this franchise.
Yeah.
And I thought that I liked the fact that that Michael, the Ben Whishaw character, that he's not the same as his dad. He hasn't forgotten his kids. He's very aware of his children,
Yes.
in fact, and he's just grieving
Mm-hmm.
and kind of isolating himself a little bit. And by the end, he learns to depend and rely upon his family, and that through it was almost like a, I don't know, kind of your It's a Wonderful Life kind of moment where you realize that
Yes.
your family and your community and everything will come and will help you in your tough times in life. And I just really, I liked the bowl scene. I thought it was incredible. I loved the animation. The 2D was incredible, so refreshing. And it was a movie that I really felt like Walt would have made and loved.
Yeah.
And I haven't felt in a live action Disney movie that kind of old fashioned Disney magic in so long.
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah, and I didn't realize it until I saw it, how much I missed that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote in my blog about it, and I said that I said years ago I read an article which said at Disney magic is made by optimizing the mundane. I can't think of a more perfect description of what Walt Disney tried to do in his career. And you look at something like Disneyland, Main Street USA, it's the
Yeah.
mundane, the ordinary, but made kind of magical and charming and idyllic. And I think that's what Mary Poppins basically does. She takes something like putting away clothes and makes it magical, and something as simple as a chalk painting, drinking tea. All these things are just sort of ordinary things that are made magical through her. And I just felt this movie captured that so well, and I felt like I was just sitting in Main Street USA on Disneyland.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it made me so happy to watch. I just loved it. And yeah, people are like, "Oh, they're not as good as the original songs." I think that's kind of ridiculous, to be honest, to say.
I do too.
We have been hearing those original songs our whole lives. We know them. These are new songs. Of course, they're not going to be the same as those original songs.
Yeah.
But I think that they did a really good job with the songs and the choreography and everything else. And I just absolutely adored it. So it's my favorite. And I can't wait to get it on Blu-ray.
Yes. Yeah, it's soon, right? Isn't it gonna be? Yeah, it is this month.
I'm so excited.
I hear you. It was such a happy surprise that this film was as good as it was. I loved how it wasn't cynical at all.
Yes.
And that it was optimistic. They didn't put modern sensibilities into it.
Yeah.
And which I thought was also amazing and wonderful. I couldn't believe it. And I'm with you. It's such a happy movie. That final scene with there's nowhere to go but up with the balloon, with all the balloons. I mean, I think I was just bawling. It was so happy and so optimistic, and I just thought this is just the kind of movie that we need today. And even though I was so negative about Disney even thinking about making it, I'm really glad they did, because it's really.
And then we're gonna get a sequel! Yay!
So
excited!
And it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Good
so
stuff.
what do you have at number one?
Well, my number one is Black Panther.
It's interesting. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Number one.
It was, again. I honestly could have picked 1 through 4.
Yeah.
As my favorite. Black Panther. These Marvel movies, I just view them as kind of like a modern day serial film, like these serial films like from the 1930s, where people would go and see like a Buck Rogers or something. They were. Because these movies, they're all interconnected, and it's just so fun. So it's like you just get to go see the next chapter, right, of this ongoing story. And I just find them. I don't find them like gospel truth. I just find them supremely entertaining.
Right.
So that's kind of how I view. So I just go. It's just like the ultimate popcorn movie, and I go, I'd have fun.
Right.
And Black Panther, I just thought there was something. I mean, clearly there were a few things about it why I put it at number one. I thought that it kind of hit this cultural is zeitgeist the right word, Rachel? I mean, there was just something about its release and when it came out that was unique and kind of, I think, struck a chord with the country, and I think and lots of the world too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it could have been clearly, of course, the African American cast and crew and creative team, and what a marvelous job they did. But I just thought it also, but really, it was such a compelling film. I never tired of it. I saw it a few times in the theater. Every time someone invited me to go see it, I'd go.
Right. Yeah.
I never tired of it, because I thought that Wakanda was such an interesting place, and I mean, clearly fictional, but what cool ideas and what interesting characters, and the whole the thing with the father and son connection, both for Killmonger and for T'Challa,
Yeah.
thought were so interesting. So it was almost, I mean, I don't mean to be flippant about this, but it's almost Shakespearean.
Uh-huh.
It's story, but I thought they pulled it off. It wasn't silly. But I love the cast. I thought the music was so interesting. I'm so happy that it got an Academy Award, as well as the costumes and the production design, because there was really a knockout. And I just thought, for combination of a Marvel film as well as just a really cool action adventure movie, that Black Panther was the winner for me.
Yeah, it's a really great film, so I can understand why. I really enjoyed it as well, and it was my favorite superhero movie. Well, aside from Spider-Verse, it was my favorite of the year. So, of live action superhero movies. So, I think it's a really good choice. So there you go. Well, let's go over our list real quick. So I have at number 12, Wrinkle in Time. Number 11, Nutcracker in the Four Realms. 10, Freaky Friday. 9, Christopher Robin. 8, Solo Star Wars Story. 7, Ant-Man and the Wasp. 6, Zombies. 5, Avengers Infinity War. 4, Black Panther. 3, Incredibles 2. 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet. And then number 1, Mary Poppins Returns.
All right. And so for my number 12, I have a blank, because I didn't get to see Zombies. Right. And I didn't think it'd be fair for me to put that at number 12, because I haven't seen it. So blank number 12. Number 11, The Nutcracker in the Four Realms. 10, A Wrinkle in Time. 9, Freaky Friday. 8, Christopher Robin. 7, Solo, A Star Wars Story. 6, Ant-Man and the Wasp. 5, Avengers Infinity War. 4, Mary Poppins Returns. 3, Ralph Breaks the Internet. 2, Incredibles 2. And then my number 1 is Black Panther.
Very good. Great. Well, this was really, really fun. Thanks for doing this with me. I really
this was fun, and it was fun to see how our lists, kind of paralleled, up until that top 4. But again, that was hard. I mean, because I probably would have been just as happy having my list echo yours, Rachel, because those in particular, those top 4 films were so stellar.
Yeah, me too. I agree with you. And so, all right, great. Well, how can people find you online?
All right. Well, I'm on Twitter at Stanford Clark, and then I have a movie blog, which is moviespastandpresent.com. I have a podcast on there too.
Very good. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews on iTunes and YouTube. So definitely check that out. If you are listening on iTunes, if you can put your ratings and reviews, I really appreciate that. If you're listening on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and that would be really great. And so thanks so much, and we will talk again soon.
Thank you. See you.
Bye.